It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Fayetteville State Assistant Athletic Director along with social media, Miriam Baker. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you got started in being a social assistant director of athletics?
So it kind of fell upon me. I've always had like a huge passion for sports, and my poor dad had no son, so me being the oldest, I learned football, baseball, learned how to do everything, and weekends were always with sports with my dad, and I've played soccer growing up. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play in college, but I still always had a dream of either working for ESPN or like Fox Sports or a big sports company like that. And as much as I like the broadcasting aspect of it, I also like doing the sports graphics because whenever you wake up and you see a cool post of your favorite team and they're like, wow, that looks so awesome, and I wanted to do stuff like that to make people excited as I was. And I ended up getting really lucky when I graduated college. I went to University of West Florida, and their alumni association reached out to me and asked if I wanted to do an internship and gave me a list of all the departments I could work for. Well, athletics was on it, and I was super stoked when I got offered the internship. Unfortunately, it was only for a month, and I ended up, getting married and moving up to North Carolina. But I was really fortunate to find a position open over here at Fayetteville State, and so yeah, it's that's pretty much how I got started. I mean, I'm still learning a lot of the ropes and everything, and but it's definitely been an awesome learning experience so far.
Can you talk about what you do as an assistant in sports information?
So I do a lot of creating graphics, a lot of us social media content. Definitely pre-game, post game day, post game, the final scores and everything for those who didn't get to watch the game or catch it live. I do a lot of updating the website. Sports information is pretty much all the information on sports, the bios, those schedules, the rosters, any, breaking news for the sports teams. I help with a lot of game day setups, especially with basketball and football where we live stream. So we have to set up, run all the cables, the cameras, double check and make sure, our network's working, and of course, breaking it down at the end. We have a bunch of different little shows that we do. We do a little segment with our athletic director. A couple of them are with our football team where we interview the head coach and a couple players, or our basketball and volleyball team before the game, and kind of get their perspective on how did y'all feel, about this game, or what are y'all doing to prepare for the next game. And then I have a little show that I kind of took over. It's called our Broncos on Blast, where I had a couple student interns help out, and it was your weekly sports report for the if you were too busy and couldn't catch up on anything or might have missed a post, we do a whole rundown of the previous week on sports.
That's cool. Can you talk about on the marketing side what that entails?
So again, with the I'll create content for social media, and we also try to come up with new ways to get more fans involved and get them to attend our games. With basketball, we've had a lot of in-game activations in between, quarters and halftime, media timeouts, trying to get fans involved, and we have sponsors that will donate a couple gifts for us to hand out as prizes. And it's been a lot of fun coming up with new little fun ways. A lot of them seem to look, they're funny, games that we used to play growing up, relay races and stuff like that. But it's fun seeing adults and some of the alumni or students get involved and do that too.
What goes into being a assistant in sports information?
So we have to pretty much tell stories about our athletics, players, coaches. A lot of it's writing game summaries. You even though we may lose or we may win, you want it instead of being negative about it, like you got to think it's more of a learning experience. It's like, how are we going to do better next time? Trying to be positive about it. Definitely there's a lot of statistics involved. I'm still learning the ropes on that. I didn't know I knew how important statistics were, but there's just a lot with every sport. I've mainly played soccer, and I know a little bit about baseball, softball, and football, but there's a lot that I didn't know about with like cross country, track and field, tennis, and like basketball. So definitely learning about all about that. But you definitely like want to have a good knowledge about learning sports or knowing your sports. Being at the right place at the right time, like anticipating, okay, are we going to score? So I can like try to get like a video or a photo of it, of an athlete, or like, with basketball, like who's going to dunk, who's going to block. Like there's definitely a lot of running around.
What goes into marketing, of course, the like Fayetteville State social media?
So like with marketing, you're trying to sell the experience to not only the student athlete aspect, but also with like athletics as a whole. So like a big part of it is, instead of mainly focusing on this team or a certain player or coach, like getting fans, their reactions to like us scoring, or, we have a 90-yard pass down into the end zone, like getting them jumping up, yelling, like the sidelines, the band, the cheerleaders, like with basketball, with our in-game activations, like you want to get like crowd excitement and everybody like cheering each other on. That plays a huge role in marketing with social media. And then you definitely want to know like your target audience. And especially like with your platforms, like, Facebook, you'll mainly have like your alumni. Facebook and Instagram are mainly like your alumni, students, or Twitter, you'll have mainly students, and a couple like, your coaches will stay on there. But yeah, you got to know like which platform like you're trying to appease to, and like in the target audience for that platform.
Can you talk about how hard that was at first to figure out like what platform goes best with like the alumni, athletes, and of course coaches?
It was definitely kind of hard at first. Like, you can't, well, I was at the beginning, whatever I posted on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, it was all the same. But as I've started getting into it after a couple of weeks, I would change up like my wording. Obviously Twitter, you can only put out so much with like a little character count on a tweet. But then Facebook, you can write paragraphs if you want. And I know I've come to notice that, your alumni, they want to know more, they really care and everything. Like they want to know what's going on with athletics. And and you have a lot more parents on Facebook and stuff too. So, and it's they can share so other family members can see. But yeah, they don't want to know like, oh, we won, here's a score. They want to know like more in depth of details. And that comes to like where our stories come in. Whenever we post them at the end of the game, they can find out like which athletes scored as many points, or like the highlights, instead of just, oh yeah, final score, we won, kind of thing.
Can you talk about, I know that you run the social media for the softball and volleyball and women's tennis, correct? Can you talk about that and how that's like running their social media?
So when I first started, I interned, and I was put on with softball and tennis because our sports information director, he also had to do he was finishing up basketball, and then we had indoor track and field going on, so there was just a lot of sports. But softball and tennis, they were really fun. The girls were so sweet, coaches were awesome. With them, I was pretty much capturing B-roll and like creating video highlights for games and matches, and posting like, a pregame post, kind of like a pregame intro, or like, hey, game starts at this time, be here. We have game day posts in game whenever like a girl would hit a home run, or we'd have like, a girl win a match, like all 3 sets. We try to like promote that. And of course like post game with the scores. I took on volleyball, and I started getting more into like post game interviews. I know this past year our volleyball team was CIAA champions, and I got to tag along with them on that and get that whole experience, which was crazy. And I had to interview the coach, we had an MVP, and like the whole time I'm interviewing, I'm like shaking because I'm like, oh my God, like I've never had to experience this before. I don't know what I'm asking. Like I told the poor girl, I was like, look, I might stutter. Please, like, I have so much excitement for y'all because this is awesome. Like the first time I've got to experience. But it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of love with our fans. We'll post and a lot of fans putting heart emojis or like, congratulations, Bronco Pride. So it's really awesome seeing like all the love and support that we have from our fans.
Do y'all get to like interchange, like for example, you might start off with volleyball and softball, and then do you get to like kind of like commingle, and if you want to do football, you can do football and stuff like that?
Yes. So like technically I do all the sports. But I started off with softball and tennis and then volleyball, but like I'll do football. We'll have it also kind of depends on like with our student interns if because there's a lot going on game days and with like camera especially because we live stream our games. So you have to have camera operators, and the more people we have, the more different camera angles we can do and post game and stuff like that. But yeah, football, I did football last year, football and basketball, and like it's a lot for like just one person. There's just always so much going on. Like I had an intern that helped me out with football, and we had to like take turns. Okay, well, you be on this end of the end zone, I'll be on the other end, and so in case there was an interception or a fumble or something, and one of us was always there to capture it. And like we would take turns getting the crowd's interaction, coaches, players on the sidelines. So that's been a lot of fun. I unfortunately I wasn't able to do outdoor track and field due to the COVID pandemic, and I haven't done golf yet. But I'm pretty excuse me, I'm looking forward to being able to do those this upcoming season.
Can you talk about like what happens whenever you get like a new coach and like what that process is like? Because I know that like you have to gather the information from like maybe the previous like person's like information person. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah. So this past season or this upcoming season, we've had 2 new football coaches join us, and the biggest thing is definitely like getting the information out there. Like, hey, we're posting a graphic on social media that we have 2 new, or we have 2 new coaches. Like Fayetteville State Athletics wants to welcome them. Another big thing is pretty much just updating the website. We have to put together a bio for them, try to get a headshot, and of course, due to the pandemic, it's been kind of hard to get our photographer here. To get a headshot of them. So I've had to find old headshots and, try to change it up a little bit or use my little Photoshop skills and change the color of their tie to blue. And for some of our little graphics that we've posted with them. And definitely like trying to getting them together to type up a little bios. Definitely one of the biggest things. Of course, being a new coach, they have a lot on their plate already, trying to get adjusted, and if they have to move or especially with football, your recruits and everything. So your biography might not be at the top of the list, but we try our best to make it happen.
Do you work with other colleges like whenever that happens to like kind of get like their bio from like let's say like Carolina might have a coach that moves to Fayetteville State? Do you work with other colleges to get their bio to maybe help the little process out better?
I personally haven't. I don't know if our sports information director has. I know it's out there. Like you can look it up on there as long as the school still has the biography and that coach on their faculty list. But you can definitely look at it. I know that's how I found their headshots was from previous school that still had them on their website, because you can Google and it'll pop up if it's out there.
Can you talk about marketing of college athletics and what goes into marketing?
So from what I've been able to experience, it's you definitely want to like not only try to branch out to like, your student athletes or like future recruits, but it's also alumni, donors, like sponsors and all. Our marketing director, he's been killing it during this pandemic. Like we have a virtual homecoming campaign, which we've added up all the money that our sports usually or what it costs for each program, and it was about like $100,000. So due to the pandemic, we were pretty much losing that if sports are canceled, and so we've had like a huge fundraiser to do it, and he's been awesome getting like new donors to come in. Like we have a 1,000 Broncos program, and he's been getting like new people to sign up for it to give back to athletics, and a bunch of other businesses and sponsors, donating to us, to the cause, because it's definitely been a troubled time, and sports is definitely like a huge thing, especially for college. Like a lot, I mean, me not really being a college athlete, but when I was in high school playing, like, yes, sports was my life, and I most of the time a lot of athletes will go to a school because they want to play sports there. Although you really should also go for the academics, but it's definitely it's been a huge change and trying to adjust to it. But yeah, it's been pretty awesome. Like I've seen what he's done, and like he'd get to me and be like, hey, can you like make little like thank you cards for everybody that we've done? And I'm like, yeah, like how many do you need? And I find he's like, oh, like a couple hundred. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's a lot. But but yeah, it's been pretty cool learning that aspect of it.
What advice would you give upcoming future sports information assistants that's looking to get into the same profession?
Definitely be passionate. Like I've super passionate about sports, and there'll always be like some ups and downs, but you got to keep your head up, and especially like if you're gonna be passionate about it, like you're gonna want to keep going, keep moving forward, like not let anything bring you down. And it's definitely a learning experience, because especially in the sports information world, like technology is always changing, social media is always changing, and you got to like try to stay on top of it. And I know me personally, it's always important to plan and stay organized. And it's okay if things don't go to plan, go as planned. But definitely like staying organized, because I know with me, sometimes I have so much going on, and if I don't like have a little list or sticky notes written down, I will forget. And if you're like me, you want to make sure you stay organized.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
So they can see any of my posts on our Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube at FSU Broncos. And then we also have Instagram at FSU_Broncos.
Is that also where they can find your amazing graphics at?
Yes.
Thank you again, Maureen, for your interview, and best of luck in the Fayetteville State Assistant Sports Information Department.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Maria, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.